Are you serious?
So this is How to Kill an Hour. My name is Marcus Bronzy.
And I'm Funk Butcher.
There's plenty of ways to kill some time out there. Thank you for killing some time with us. Before we start the show, we want to let you know that you can join our mailing list. All you have to do is go to howtokillanhour.com/news. And also, Funk, we've got a new smart link, right?
Okay.
So whatever device you hear your friend listening to How to Kill an Hour on.
How smart is it? Because I'm kind of stupid
It's
sometimes.
pretty, it's pretty smart, It's pretty smart. It works out whatever phone you're on.
Okay.
And it tells you to either go to Spotify, Google Play, or the Apple iTunes store.
Nice.
It's nice, all right? But even more special than that, today we are joined by some... Can I call this guy royalty?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Can we call this guy...
I will not challenge you on that. That's
okay.
There should be another word for a word higher than that. Yeah.
Godly? No, today we're joined by DJ Jazzy Jeff. Let's have a round of applause for Jazzy in the building.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, man.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
You're on tour right now.
Yep.
How's the tour going?
It's good. We're pretty much doing like 4 days on, 3 days off.
Okay.
So we did the first 4 days. We were in actually Hamburg, Germany, and then we came to London and did Electric Brixton, and then we went to Copenhagen, and then we did Turin, Italy, and we take our days off here, man.
That's a good balance. 4 days on, 3 days off, and then come to chill in the UK.
I don't normally do 4 days on, 3 days off. Like sometimes I get really crazy and I'll do like 17 days straight, which I don't know what's wrong with me.
That's overtime.
That's crazy. That's not even overtime. So this one is a little bit, laid out, so that
sounds very structured. Yeah, it sounds very structured.
It's not. The funny thing is this rotation of touring, I started in 1999. So I have been doing this same rotation. Like I have a schedule that I come to the UK and then travel all over in the fall. And then I go to Asia and Australia, and then I come to the UK in April into May, and I've been doing that since 1999.
Why is that? Why that particular rotation?
It's almost like my touring kind of lays out the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain level of time that I want off in the summer, to spend with the family. I always want my holidays off, so it's kind of like if I can tour in October, November, then I take December off and spend Christmas with my family. So you kind of try to structure it, and then I actually think that people have gotten used to seeing me around the same time every year. So because I tried to change it one year and that didn't go over too well. People are just like, I can't watch you in the UK in January. It's just not. It's like it's weird.
It felt odd. So you say you've got this touring schedule, this cycle, and you produce as well. So what part of the cycle do you section out to make your music as well?
Well, what's funny? It took me a second to get my travel set up comfortable. I've always had a travel set up. I just was never really comfortable in it. And maybe about 2 years ago, I almost made my travel setup my main setup. Like I wanted to look at that like this is the only place that I make music, and I started to get really comfortable to the point that everything just blurs together. Like I got a bag that I can pretty much make an entire album in any hotel room on the planet.
Yeah.
With speakers and my interface and a microphone and like whatever I need, I'm good. So
I know a lot of people would really want to know what that setup is at the moment. So not the whole lot, because I know there's probably a lot in there. But what's the basis?
What's funny is it's not a lot, and what I realized is my setup may not work for someone else. I'm a very heavy Ableton user. I have gotten really, really back into my MPC. I took a big break from that, and I was really, just Ableton and my push and got back into my MPC. So it's almost like I sectional off all of my flow. So I'm kind of like, okay, my drums are this. Yep. My samples are this. Here's all of my instruments. This is all of my plugins for me to mix. Like, how can I be fast and efficient?
Yeah.
So it's really, my computer and Ableton and my MPC, and I have a drive with 1,000,001 sounds, and I carry an Apollo Arrow, which I just got because I used to have an Apollo Duo, but the Arrow is bust, so I don't have to plug that up, because there's times that, it's kind of like, I got to tighten this mix up on a plane, and I can just kind of pull it out, pull the Arrow, put it on my lap, plug my headphones up, and I got all of my plugins. So,
amazing.
I enjoy that. I come from a different era where everybody had a studio, and we didn't necessarily have a travel studio.
Exactly.
And I've bumped into guys, that will pull out their laptop. They would come to the studio and pull out their laptop, and and the geek in me, I'm kind of like, oh man, so what you got at the crib? And he's like, what do you mean? This is it. I was like, what do you mean this is it? Like, this is it. Yeah. Like, that's your studio.
Less is more.
And I'm kind of like, well, damn, I got this over here and this over here, and you got that, and I'm listening to what you coming out with, and and then you start thinking that if I had one setup, I wouldn't be looking. I hate going from here and going over here. And then you load something, and it's kind of like, oh, I didn't have that on this computer. Yeah, that if I only had one setup, I wouldn't have to worry about that, So I kind of started adopting that philosophy, and that is really working.
So your studio, you pretty much have one setup, and that means that you're at home in the studio wherever you are in the world then?
I don't have one setup. I haven't gotten to that point. Like, I have a big studio.
Yeah.
I have a smaller studio. I have a smaller studio, and then I have my travel studio. But I'm not the only one that's working in the studio. So, but just, for the most part, it's funny. I don't even use the big studio anymore. I go in a big studio because it's big speakers and play stuff that I made. But I'm either on one of the smaller studios or on my laptop.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. How is it as somebody who's kind of looked to as a technological pioneer when it comes to the industry? So let's flip over to your DJing for a sec. A software that you may have heard some DJs talking about called Serato, right? You were a big pusher of Serato in its early days, right? Yep. So it's quite interesting to hear on your tour that you've been messing with some new tech. We've kind of seen some stuff on Twitter. Let's chat about that real quick. Because I saw a video of you playing with that, and I was like, okay, this could be the next step.
I mean, that's what you said. You said this is probably the most trailblazing thing since Serato, and that's a big statement to make from someone like yourself who's at the cutting edge of the technology in regards to DJing. So, what is it about this hardware in particular which you think is so futuristic?
You know what I think? I think my brain and tech starts to go into what makes sense.
Okay.
Like I'm super a common sense person that is kind of like, and I get a kick out of things that make common sense. It's like it's as simple. Like I'm a really big cook. For someone to come out with something that basically peels your potatoes and cuts them into French fries, I'm kind of like, how genius is that?
Yeah,
because I used to peel it with a knife and then have to cut it with a knife, and now you invented this thing. Like, so that's where my brain goes. When someone makes something that just makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, in DJ. I tell a story that I used to tour, and I remember doing a tour in Japan. And when I came home, it was about maybe 3,000 pounds in extra baggage charges for my records. Jeez. And it was kind of like, okay, I got to do something because I can't keep taking this level of a hit. Yeah. And I don't want to sell the people out and take less records and give you a bad show because of what the airline is doing to me. And right when that happened was pretty much the birth of Serato.
Okay.
So when I looked at it, it was kind of like, okay, as long as it doesn't sacrifice the integrity that I have to have of the art of DJing, what you basically did is you allowed me to put my entire record collection on a computer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, this is like, that made practical sense to me. And there were purists that were kind of like, we don't mess with that, and that's not. And I'm kind of like, you're not understanding the principle that it's kind of like, I can't keep it real and not go to Japan and give the people the experience that I feel they need to because I'm keeping it real. To me, that's selfish.
Yeah. And I think that's a unique aspect about yourself. You're from a generation which is very esteemed, but your way of thinking, it connects to a younger audience. It doesn't alienate us because a lot of people may feel like cutting the potatoes manually is part of the cooking experience, so using that analogy, whereas it doesn't have to be. You're still cooking whether or not you've got a utensil that cuts the potatoes automatically. Or
to me, I just feel like in life, you want the best experience that you can have. Sometimes the best experience doesn't have to be the hardest. I think, generations before us, sometimes, when you used to hear the cliches, well, I walked 5 miles to school. Well, you walked 5 miles to school because they didn't have a bus, or they didn't have Uber, or they didn't have something that made it. I guarantee you, if you had all of the things that we had, you wouldn't have walked 5 miles to school.
Exactly.
You walked because you had to.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I don't want to put myself in this position, because I know guys that it's kind of like you get equipment and it's like, oh man, I got this thing and it does this to the sample and I can do this and it, oh man, well I chop it up manually. And I'm kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's okay. You got a big yard and you out there with some scissors trying to cut your grass. You better get that lawnmower. Like that, to me, that's not smart.
Yeah. Do you feel that place comes from a space of resentment? Like a generation has put in so much hard work into an area that they want everyone else who comes after them to put in.
And I don't like that. Like, I don't believe that my experiences, you have to have the same experiences that I did. Like, if I walk down the street and I fell into a hole, it's my duty to tell you that it's a hole there. Like, I don't think, like, you got to fall in the same hole that I fall. Like, that's bitter. That's bitter people that, my journey was harder. Yep. Sometimes the journey is hard for the next generation, and that's cool.
Okay. So now you've gone down this street and you found this hole, and this hole is phase.
Yeah.
What is it about this hole is different from...
Well, you know what it was? It's kind of like... Rain came out with the 12s, which was basically a controller that was the size of a turntable, had a spinning platter, felt exactly like turntables. We did some tweaking and got it to the point that for about 2 tours, I was using the 12s, and they worked great. There is a level from anyone that plays turntables, especially that plays turntables on a really big stage. There may be like 5 of us. It's you got Craze, you got Snake, you got A-Track, you got myself, on these big festival stages. Because it's only 5 of us, the festivals don't care about the vibrations.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is playing CDs or playing controllers.
Yeah.
So when you try to come with this experience and you like, man, you got 19 subs on the stage and the whole stage is shaking.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put the record on, the bass shakes my needle off. So now I got to tell you to turn it down.
Gotcha.
And now I don't sound as good as the next guy. So now I'm like, oh man, so now I'm not giving the performance that I really want to give because of technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So you start looking at, when the first time that I used the Rain, it was the first time in 30 something years that I never had to worry about that. And it was just weird that it's kind of like, so it's not going to vibrate, it's not going to shake, it's not going to jump. Like you find yourself, I posted a video of me picking it up and just letting it go. Nothing. I'm like, oh my God, this is, and I never paid attention. I told someone that I never realized that the way that I walk on stage, I take less pressure off of the way I walk because of 30 something years of knowing that you can't vibrate the stage.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I'm never even paid attention that when I step on my riser, I'm stepping soft.
You subconsciously got a tiptoe.
Yeah. And I'm like, now I'm jumping up and down. I'm like, you used to get an MC dirty looks whenever he danced past the turntable. Like, what are you doing? But, and I enjoyed that. The problem was they were very hard to get all around the world. There were places in the world that didn't have the Rain 12s. They were back ordered. But from the first time that I saw Phase, it gave you the same experience with something that you can put in your bag. So that's where the practical side comes in. Yep. Same experience, but you know what? When I don't have to worry about a venue having the Rain or sourcing out the Rain, and I have something that I can control, that I can just set my computer up, plug this up, drop these on top of records, and have the same experience, that was genius. Like from the first time that I saw it. And we waited a while. They were... they wanted to be a little bit more diligent in making sure that it was ready when it came out. And there was a lot of people that were upset because people placed orders and, you know, it was supposed to come out in September, and then they backed it up, and then they backed it up again, and then people started getting really, really angry. You know, I paid my money. And I remember telling them, I was like, the day that this comes out and it ships, all's forgiven.
Yeah.
Like, no one is, like, you know, people are mad because the only anger was the excitement that I really want this. Yeah. But it's kind of like, if you're trying to make sure that we have a better experience, once it comes in the mail, all's forgiven.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it was funny because they actually gave me mine maybe a week and a half before they shipped out everybody else.
Okay.
And I wouldn't post anything because you didn't want people getting mad. Oh my God, Jeff got it first. I spent my money and all the rest of this. Yeah. You know, and I watched when the shipments went out, you start looking online and everybody's happy. Like, I got mine, I got it in the mail. Like, no one is bashing or angry. But like I said, I just think this allows people who do what I do to continue without the hassles. Yeah. And that goes back to, you know, what we were talking about earlier. Like, I don't believe that in order to be a real DJ, you have to deal with the challenge of your needle jumping. Yeah. I'm like, yo, don't you want people to have the best experience possible? That's where I think it gets selfish. Yeah. Like, as a DJ, my job is to make you happy. Mm-hmm. And you ain't happy if the record jumps or it sounds bad. Like, my job is to fix all of that. Yeah. And give you that same experience. So I'm kind of like, man, if I can get aside, as much as of a tech geek as I am, if I can make it just about the music that I play, then everybody has a great experience. Yeah. Because people don't realize that there's sometimes you on stage, and if you just knew what was going through my head, that this is, oh man, this is jumping and this is blinking and this isn't right and it's not tracking right and I can't hear and I can't this. No one cares about that. Only people just, you know, you figure it's like, someone is like, I've waited 10 years of my life to come see you play. Yeah. Last thing you want to do is run down a list of troubles, you know, my foot hurts and I didn't get any sleep and I'm kind of hungry. And you don't want to hear that. So it's kind of like you want to give people a really good experience. And I just think, you know, we are at a point in technology that I think it's starting, the technology is starting not to get into the way. It's starting to clear up all of the bad spaces that we had in order for you to just give your true performance. Yeah, so and I'm with that. I
like what you touched on about technology freeing up some space and providing newfound freedom for artists, because what you're talking about is a different level of consideration that we don't find in a lot of musicians or DJs, where they actually have a sense of care and thought for the people that are coming and investing in them. Like, you want the technology to allow you to free up your creativity, as opposed to providing some sort of obstacle in the way of your creativity. And this kind of brings me on to the position that you're in with when you release your M3 project. You put out a series of videos about the way you felt free now out of the situation that you used previously. And do you want to talk a little bit about how the way technology has helped kind of embolden you on that new path?
Well, I mean, it's funny because, like I said, I have always, my brain has always worked from the position of logic. That it was just kind of like, okay, you know what? And I say, you know, when we got signed to a record deal, and you go home and I tell my mom, we got signed to a record deal. Like, oh my God, you know, she looks at it like it's a job. Okay, all right, oh, you got a job. How much do you get paid at your job? And I'm kind of like, hold up. Let me hold up, I'll be right back. And then you're kind of like, you know, okay, like if someone said you're going to make $10 an hour and you work 10 hours, I know how much I'm going to make. Yeah. If someone says, you know, we make $1,000 a day and we'll give you 10%, I know how much I'm going to make. When someone says we're going to pay you 10 points, I'm kind of like, well, how much is a point? And as soon as you ask that question, you go down this rabbit hole that is kind of like, well, it could be, or it might, and possible. Well, it all depends on the and I'm kind of like, why isn't it this difficult for me to cut grass and figure out how much I'm going to get paid? Like, why? Like, this doesn't make sense. There's a much easier way that you can explain or break down how much money I'm making. And you send me down this rabbit hole. So when you start asking questions, well, I don't quite understand that. Then all of a sudden it's kind of like, yeah, I think this guy's a troublemaker. And I'm like, hold up. First of all, I am the farthest from a troublemaker. And now I'm looking at you funny because all I'm trying to do is explain to my mom how much money I make at my job. And you call me a troublemaker for asking the questions. And that was the thing that kind of sparked it up. That now I'm looking at, so you don't know how much you're getting paid. And you don't know how much you're getting paid. And y'all cool with that? Like, am I crazy? Are y'all cool? Like, no one has ever been cool with that, but you just kind of looked at it like this is something that I have to accept. And it was just, it never made sense to me.
Very odd. I was going to say it's very odd industry standard. It's hard to find other industries where you find conversations that try and bamboozle you. Apart from bills, electricity bills and banking. You know,
and I mean,
very interesting.
Since I've produced, I've always felt it is a very weird dynamic where it's the only industry where your potential earnings is what is being discussed. No one knows actually what you earn. It's the potential. What you could get $1 million. You could get.
And see, I'm gonna go a step farther. The potential earnings is your conversation. It's not theirs.
Yes.
It's not theirs. Like, they're very concrete in knowing. Because it's funny if you tell somebody, I'm gonna pay you 10 points, you don't know. But if someone says, okay, well, you sell this for $10 and we're going to give you 7, I have a clear-cut understanding of how much I'm going to make. And that is the position. When record companies talk to each other, they don't talk on a point system. They only talk to you on that. So I'm kind of like, why is this weird math just for me? But with the distributor, it's kind of like we get X a percentage or we get X amount of dollars per record, but you're talking to me on points. Like, I feel like you're trying to confuse me. And it never made sense. So I think going through year after year after year, it was really my job, or it was really my mission that I want to, at some point in time in my life and making music, I want to go from A to Z. So when you start making music, excuse me, when you start making music and you start becoming in control over the music that you want to make, now you have creative control. You know, and I realized that because I've been in positions that someone gave me creative control, but still kept me in this old system. And I realized creative control was more important than the money. Like, because think about it, you get into this for creativity. So when someone starts to say, you know what, I'm not cool with what you're doing creative, like, you take that more personal than somebody taking your money. So then I started to realize the next scam. Like, wait a minute. So you're going to let me do what I want to do and I'm happy. And then we get to the final, you know, the end of it, and it's kind of like, well, I still don't know how much money I'm making. Like, so, you know, people didn't realize that there were two issues because record companies would kind of take your creative control and then give you this weird payment system. So now, you know, you get that. But I just kept, you know, I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, that's what drove me into, you know, being a producer, getting a production company. Let me open my own studio. Because I have the creative workspace that I can do whatever I want, but I got to get it out. So when it comes time to get it out, then you start hitting the next snag. Okay, so how can I get it out? Now, either I have to sign this to somebody that is going to start dabbling with my creative control. I need to find a distribution situation that I can kind of get this out, which isn't really hard because they don't handle all of the other structure. Like, trust me, record companies do serve a purpose in the structure stuff that they did. I just don't believe that purpose is worth someone taking 97% of it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I'm kind of like, I was always down with like, oh my God, like, you know what? If we became 50-50 partners, you would have every artist happy. Every record company, would not have to worry about losing an artist. We're equal partners. Like what you do and what I do are two different things. And I appreciate what you do. And you appreciate what I do. And we can share in the revenue.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand it getting to the point that, I'm kind of like, okay, so I made this record, I wrote this record, I produced this record, I went in the studio and recorded this record. I even went on the road and promoted this record, but I get 7% of it?
Yeah.
Just because you put it out.
Is that the part where they leverage that you are able to be as creative as you want to be, but this is the price?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think they leveraged it at all. I think it was just kind of like, this is the way things were. Like you used to get a lot of that explanation that I'm kind of like, listen, it used to be slavery. That don't make it right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to give me, well, it's kind of been like that. Like, okay, well, it's time to change it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense. So I think, the more that you push. But I think, as watching time go and having this in the back of my mind and trying to figure out ways to change it, when you started to see the birth of social media, I looked at it very different. Like I was a very early adopter in social media. I have some very tech heavy friends, and I remember being on MySpace, and I started to realize, because I remember when everything was done with a website, you had to get a website. But I remember you get a website, the website's 12,000 pounds, and you're like, oh my God, because they have to write this and this and this, and then all of a sudden MySpace came out, and I'm kind of like, isn't this everything that's on my website?
Yeah.
Like, wow, like you built a website and just gave me a page, and then I can just put my stuff and just point people here. I was like, that's genius.
Yeah.
And then when I remember when Twitter kind of started becoming popular, I called my friend and I was like, I really don't understand this. And he was like, trust me, you got to do it. And so, I signed up, and it was kind of like, he's like, because I'm like, I don't understand I don't understand. Like, you just want me to tell you what I'm doing right now? Like, who cares about? He's like, trust me. So I found myself, kind of like, on my way to the studio.
Yeah.
Tweet. In the studio making a beat. Tweet. And I was just like, this isn't working. And he was like, listen, man, people want to talk to you.
Yeah.
He said, this is what I'm gonna tell you to do. Watch the football game today, and just comment on the football game. And it was like somebody threw a pass and he dropped it, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe he dropped the ball. And like people just wanted to interact with you. Like, oh my God, Jeff watches football. Yeah, I can't believe he dropped the ball. He always has a bad habit of dropping the ball. And you find yourself talking back, and you start to understand that it's a communication and a conversation. It's not necessarily for me to show up and say, hey, I got a new album out.
No.
Like, let me give you a little bit of piece of me. But the light bulb went off in my head, because what I've always said, record companies have their hand on a fan switch. So when it comes time for you to do your album, what a record company does is they line you up with all of these promotional things. You go talk to him and do this interview and do that and do this and do this.
Yeah.
And so now, we're going to let the fans know what you're doing. And they do that for a point in time. And as soon as your project starts to die down, they cut it off.
Yeah.
What social media is your hand on the fan switch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. So you mean I could tell everybody that likes what I do that I'm doing something today? I don't have to go through you to do it?
Yeah.
So once you start figuring that out, all it is basically waving your hand, telling everybody, hey, come over here if you want to know any news or information about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And once I saw that level of power, I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to go through you anymore to get to the people who like what I do.
Yeah.
Let alone, I can tell you if the reason why you haven't heard anything from me is because of something I'm going through with them.
Yeah.
And that's when you started to get the Lupe fiasco stuff and, people just complaining about that. But it was almost like the discovery of my fan base that basically makes up everything that I am.
Yeah.
I don't need you to access them anymore.
Yeah. it's a real powerful voice. I mean, what's that guy's name? Snowden. He's even on Twitter.
Yeah.
If it allows people who the government have actually got their hands on and are reducing their voice, it allows them a mechanism to hit as many people as possible.
Exactly.
That's marketing potential.
Now there's a positive and a negative, just like with anything. As much as I can get my voice out, someone who doesn't have the right intentions can get their voice out too.
That's true.
So it's two-sided, but you have to appreciate the ability to just be able to talk to people who like what you do.
Yeah.
Like my friend who was at the social media was like, man, there's a woman that all she does is post about cats, and she's got 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And he's like, because there's 100,000 people in this world that care about cats and want to see that. And he's like, that's where it comes back to. I had a guy tell me one day, you can basically pass gas on a record and sell 1 million copies. You just got to find where the people who want that, where are they?
Got to find that niche.
Yeah, and that's what it is. You know, sometimes, it's not that your music doesn't sell. It's sometimes, you're selling it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You're trying to get to the wrong group of people.
It's interesting because I do some teaching work with some young people, and I teach them music production, basic logic 101. And I feel where they are so switched on, some of my young learners, into how the market works nowadays, a lot of them feel more swayed to that fan switch. They feel a lot more of their career is determined by how heavy their finger is on that fan switch, as opposed to their level of skill.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's one of the bad things about social media. And it was funny. I posed this question. I was just like, we all came up. I'm very sure that you had a DJ that you listened to when you were coming up.
Yeah, of
course.
Somebody that you listened to. They gave you a sense of music. They gave you, a play selection and all the rest of that. And I said, okay, I got a 10-year-old son. Who's his DJ? And I was like, wow, he's got a playlist. He doesn't have a DJ.
Yeah.
That is the reason why when you're DJing, someone sticks their phone in your face and tells you to play this. Because this is what their DJ is telling them to play. It's Spotify. Play this. But the level of your DJ gave you an experience. Your DJ took you on a trip. Your DJ gave you a certain sense of taste and culture that I'm scared that a generation is going to grow up without that. That it's more important. I've been to those parties where people are dripping with sweat, dancing, having a great time. And I've been to parties where there was somebody that spent $10,000 to get in a booth, and they all shared one big bottle of champagne and all took turns taking pictures of it. And that was their party experience. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, like, you've never sweated at a party before. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like it's almost that if I open up a club and demand that you can't bring your cell phone in, no one will come.
I'd love that. Could you imagine that club?
Well, you do get a lot of more focus on the DJ, but I mean, I kind of battle with your position and the opposing position of, does DJ Alexa, the voice operated AI side of things, does that take us down a road where we lose magnificent turntablists like yourself because they're so fixated on just the music and not how the music is delivered to us?
Well, what's funny is I don't necessarily think it's just the music. I think, I came up with DJs that it was just the music, but the way that it was presented to me changed my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've seen DJs play 10 records, and I've seen a DJ play these 10 records, and you're just like, this is the worst thing in the world. And then I've seen a DJ play those same 10 records, and you're like, oh my God, like I will never forget the way that this was presented to me. You can make somebody the same sandwich with the same ingredients and one be horrible.
Yeah.
And, you know, just depending on how much you gave. You know, he gave me too much mayonnaise. He didn't give me enough meat.
Cut off the crust.
You know, it's just, you know, so it really comes down to that I think there is a level. Trust me, I'm a technology geek with, you know, Hey Google and Alexa and everybody. Like, that's great. Turn my lights on, turn my lights off. I just don't want you to program my music for me because what I think those algorithms will never be able to do is to look up and see, okay, the DJ before me played a little bit too much of this. Now I need to go down this road.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know how to change pace. They don't know how to read people's emotions.
Yeah, that's the fun.
You're reading an algorithm, and I'm kind of like, there's nothing like that human side of it that, you know, a real DJ can do. That is kind of like, okay, you know, oh man, this is great, but I'm going to take this left turn because I feel that they're so energetic right now that they'll ride with me on this left turn, and then when I bring it back around, that's what's going to make it. There's no algorithm that can do that.
I believe that's true. I think there is a grey space in humanity that computers and algorithms can't gauge. They can't compute because
it's the final nuance that you know, you can't get that computer stand-up comedian. Do you know what I mean? You can't get that level yet. But moving forward in our lifetime, do you think there's a possibility of seeing anything that's close to that?
No, I think this is what I will say. The only way that we will get there is if we allow technology to change us and put us in a place that we're willing to accept that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, if technology or the way things are is breeding a group of people that don't have an actual DJ who does actual things, if it becomes the playlist, then we are very easily capable of getting to a point that you can determine that, because basically it's just desensitizing you.
Okay.
You're like I don't think there will ever be an algorithm that can come up to where we are, but we can drop our standards down to the point that we'll just accept it. And I think what my job is, I just want every time that I play for someone, for them to feel like I can't get that experience on Spotify.
I think that's still very apparent. I mean, I've been to a few shows, and and tickets are still selling for live events. So you know, I think at the moment we are still in a place like that. You haven't got too much time with us, right? So
listen, I'm with you.
You with us? Because I was going to say, I wanted to just, you mentioned cooking a few times, and I just wanted to say, like, there's that Billy the producer mentioned that you make a smashing barbecue sauce, and I just wanted to know, is this
really?
Okay. I wanted to know the secret of this barbecue sauce.
Jazz gave you the look like,
Jazz looked like,
you need to taste this.
You got to understand that being a producer or a DJ is very, very similar to cooking.
You got the sauce.
You got to know how much ingredients to put in stuff. You got to know when it's too much sauce, too much this, too much that.
It's crowd pleasing. Yeah, it's crowd pleasing.
All it is. It's kind of like, you know, if I'm going to make something spicy, I'm going to add a little bit of sweet to it because I want the sweet to catch you first and then the kick come in. And you're kind of like, you know, that's like somebody dropping something unexpected.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I would just... You know, I think when I finally moved out on my own, I would just sit in the kitchen and I would just experiment. You know, I remember the first time, you know, I wanted to make something and I picked up the phone and I called my mom and she just ran down, you know, because she knew I always looked. And she just ran down, do this. And she, you know, let me tell you the main thing that you have to worry about, cook everything slow. She's like, if you're frying chicken, don't fry it fast. You'll fry the outside before you fry the inside. If you cook everything slow or everything medium, you have the best chance for it to getting done. So once you get that, then it's just really your taste. Like, oh man, I tried this. You know, okay, I know the typical salt, pepper, and then it's kind of like, oh, let me try a little bit of onion salt. Let me try a little bit of the garlic powder. Let me try this. Oh man, okay. So what if I dried my chicken off and I soaked my chicken in milk? And then took it out and put it in a bowl and put hot sauce in a bowl and put season and tossed it all around and then floured it and shook all of the excess flour off and fried it. Like, oh my God, like that's great. Like, and you just really, it was really like me DJing. Like, let me just start adding this. Sometimes you add that, that's too spicy. I didn't like that, or whatever that was. That made the chicken fry faster because, you know, of the pepper or whatever. And it's just really playing with stuff. So, you know, it was really the same thing with my barbecue sauce. It was kind of like, oh, yeah, you get barbecue sauce. Like, you know, I'm not going to season, you know, my steaks and all the rest of this stuff to get to the point that I'm going to use barbecue sauce out of a bottle. Like, I'm not going to trust that. Like, okay, well, I taste this, and it's not this enough. So let me add a little bit of this, and let me add this, let me add this. And then you just start getting to the point of like, okay, so I want to start from scratch and make my own sauce and then put that kind of stuff in. And then you know, your fan base is your friends. You know, I'm having a barbecue. Everybody come over and Jeff made the sauce. Like, oh my God, Jeff's sauce is amazing. And then somebody's like, you should sell that. And I'm kind of like, I don't really have time to do that. And it's like, oh man, you should do it. You should do it. You know.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple points on it. I'll give you a couple points on that sauce.
I find it fascinating as well because I don't know if you noticed that the Colonel actually DJs now as well. Did you see about?
Yeah.
So talking of chicken and DJing.
I'm just, you know, listen, I saw that and I just said, I don't think there's anything good that's going to come out of the Colonel DJing.
Whoever signed off on that, they had a very hard Monday morning meeting after that. Yeah. So you like to mix tech and try new things when you're doing DJing, but in the kitchen, you said it's similar to mixing. Have you got any technology in the kitchen that you're working with?
Man, listen, my whole house is a tech house.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I am very much into that, and thank God I married a very technical woman. Like there's times that as tech savvy as I am, I'm pushing the remote to my wife, and she's like, "No, you got to push that and do that and do this and such and such." And I was just like, "Yeah, that's cool." Like that's why we're together.
Yeah.
So you know, she's the one. You know, like I said, she's the one that went to the restaurant store and came home with the French fry thing, and I'm just like, "Oh my God, this is great." You know, this is a lemon press that if you want to squeeze your lemons, this is and I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, so we both are like that. You know, coffee machines that, you know, you can pour fresh ground coffee in, you ground the coffee up and put it in, and it makes it, you know,
love that.
That it's kind of like, it's not, you know, like, okay, I like the Keurig that you can put the pot in, but you know what? When I can go around the world and grab coffee beans and bring them home and we could try that, oh man, this is great. Oh man, the Colombian coffee is better. What about the Brazilian coffee? You know, and then you have a coffee machine that can actually make it. Like these are just all of the things that, you know, I know my mom had a coffee percolator pot, and she would have to get cans of coffee, and you realize how difficult that was. And then you fast forward to how this is so much simpler now. Like I find myself going over to my mom's house and it was like, Mom, you need to let me buy you this new coffee machine. And she's like, I like my old coffee. And I'm like, you don't understand that you can do this and this, you know, that it has transformed and has gotten so much more, you know, deep in the future with tech. But listen, my kitchen is, you know, we got the grill, the griddle, you know, that, you know, we'll make pancakes and we take the grill off the stove and put the griddle and just, it's a pancake griddle. So we make we have waffle makers, and I got a waffle iron that we whip the waffles up and make that. And, you know, you got this. And so, you know, it's you know, it's the same principle with everything.
I like that, man. I like that. I want to see this kitchen. I got to be honest, man. It sounds like the kind of kitchen I'd fall in love with. Waffles over here, barbecue sauce on the chicken.
Yeah.
I'm drooling.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
Like, you're real busy touring. It sounds like you're real busy in the kitchen. When you get a few moments to kill some time, how does Jazzy Jeff the Magnificent like to kill some time?
I go in the studio.
Real talk.
I don't have a switch. I don't have a switch. You know, I think there is a level of the studio that I've gotten to that I've realized every piece of music I make doesn't have to come out. Like I've got albums to vacuum my studio.
Yeah.
Right.
I got stuff that I made that I put this on, and people will come in and be like, yo, what is that? And I'm like that's what I clean the studio to. And they're like, you gonna put that out? Like, nah, that's what I clean the studio to.
I got to send a shout out to my sons, Carter and Tate, because they go to school in a school run, they listen to Skaters Paradise. They absolutely love it. They love the way you take them through all the different places of the world, and it just really opens up. It's what music's supposed to do. It provides a real visual imagery for them to kind of aspire to. So
yeah, that was a lot of fun. fun. That was a lot of fun.
I love that video as well.
Kind of, peace and, and like I said, that was the first time that from beginning to end, we had 100% creative control.
Yeah.
The way that we kind of, worked on it, I took 2 weeks and got a bunch of musicians together. And in the first 2 weeks, all we did was do all of the music. Like we did all of the music. Like I was like, I want to have music that I feel good about before anything goes on top. And then the next 2 weeks, we brought all of the vocalists in, and we just went through song by song, and everybody wrote. And it was just kind of like you pieced it together. And that was the first time I ever did a project like that.
Amazing. I saw a picture on social media of you, Kenny, Todd.
And Todd, yeah. We were in the studio over here.
Cooking up something?
Yeah. You know what's funny? That was the first time that we have all been in the studio in a while.
Okay.
The crazy thing is Kenny Dope just moved 15 minutes away from me.
Yes, I saw that as well. So you had the housewarming.
This is about to be a very interesting thing for us to be that close. But it was just kind of like, I came over, Kenny was over, they had a day off. And Todd was just like, hey, man, let's go in the studio and do something.
So much history in that room.
That Todd,
Yeah.
And it was really, I walked in and Kenny had made something and Todd was like, oh, man, we such and such. And he was like, man, set your stuff up. And I set my stuff up and I did something in my headphones and I played it for him. He's like, all right, put that in. Like, I love that, Todd was more of an orchestra and piecing all of this stuff together.
Yeah.
Because I really think so many times we overthink it. I think the best music that I have ever made in my life has been something that I made in 10 minutes.
Definitely.
Every time.
Yep.
Every time. It was just something that you just had to get out and you got it out and it was just kind of like, oh my God.
You're in the zone, innit?
Yeah. But when you think about people who don't make music, I don't know if anyone or if you ever really grasp the process that you can make something in 10 minutes that can be a lifetime for somebody else. That's wild to the other person.
Yeah.
If you don't make music, people come in the studio, and I think the experience is the people who don't do what you do are so intrigued that you can take nothing and turn it into something that will last for the rest of my life in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's why people look at musicians and producers and DJs like aliens, because it's kind of like, how do you do that? Where did that come from? Is it an idea? And sometimes it's thought and sometimes it's just done.
Incredible.
It's great, right? It's great. Well, you know what? I just want to thank you very much for coming down the show.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming down and having a chat with us. And if we want to make sure we can find out about your tour, we obviously going to follow you on Twitter because you're active on there at
DJ Jazzy Jeff 215.
That's it, 215. Yeah,
you have to count. I'm trying to figure out all of it. Yes, 215. Instagram is just DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Who's on your handle? Someone needs to get off your handle on Twitter. We need to talk to Twitter about that, man.
Well, you know what's funny is I had the chance to get just straight DJ Jazzy Jeff, but I had 215 for so long that you almost kind of don't want to throw somebody off, because now if it's just straight Jazzy Jeff, unless you can migrate everybody over, we just gonna keep it at 215.
Twitter can do that for you, man. Twitter, are you listening? Come on, man, sort that out. But
215.
You got a few dates coming up. What are your next few dates that we've got coming up now?
You know what? I am just making rounds today. Like whenever I have time off in London, like you said, we saw each other down at Western DJ. I go down to Western DJ because I'm, anytime I get a chance to go into a store and actually touch some stuff, because we don't have those stores like that like we used to. There used to be point in times that you can go into 10 different stores and see equipment and records. So to be able to go into a store and look like, even if I don't need anything, like what needles? Oh man, you got new headphones. Oh, what's this? How does this work? That's where so much of our musical dialogue used to come from in those record stores and in those equipment stores. So, I always have to make my rounds, there, do a little bit of digging, and just, go see some people, go eat some food. London is kind of like a second home. I think when you travel, when you get to a point that people in a particular place, and you know how to get around in that particular place. There's a level of comfort.
Yeah.
Like it's the funny thing is when we're all on tour, we land in Hungary, everybody's in the hotel. I'll call you around, hey, what you doing? And I'm sitting there chilling, hey, what you doing? Yeah. When we land in London, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, yo, as soon as I'm going to put my bags down and I'm going to go up the street and I'm going to get me something from such and such, and we'll go to Byron Burger, get a burger, and then I'm going to, jump on the tube and go down to such and such. And then it's like, yeah, I'm going to jump in the Uber and go see,
Yeah.
So that's when you kind of know that you have a level of comfort. And that's basically, so the next couple of days doing that, I'm finishing up a project back home that I got to touch up on some mixes. So, at some point in time, I go and sit in my room and just listen to make sure everything is cool. But that's it.
Cool, man. Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. Oh, is it Mamuna Yusuf?
Man.
Yeah, you talk about projects. I was just thinking about fresh projects. I had to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, man. That's a special one. That's a special one. We I've actually been on a group chat because we have had the we have had the issue that we want to kind of scale this to 12 songs and we got about 20. So this is when the process of where we have to move it, and then knowing that, some of these songs are more personal to her, I always put, that in her hands. And then, it's from a DJ's perspective, I think the playlist and the way that it lays out, you kind of want it to flow.
Yeah.
So, I juggle that around. I put it on my phone and I just go and listen to it. And then I move stuff around to see what feels better. But we got an incredible project. Like she has always been somebody that I looked at that was one of the best that I've ever heard that sings and raps. And she wouldn't rap for a long time. And I used to get angry, like, yo, like you got something that other people can't do. You have to show it. And then it was kind of like, she started doing a little bit. And then when she did the Tiny Desk thing with Common, that was it. Like people just like, oh my God. And I'm sitting there like, that was normal.
I told you.
Yeah.
So, and then I really wanted to give, I've always felt like she's never had the landscape to do the project that I felt she should do. So I was like, listen, I'm gonna put together, the team, she's always worked on stuff that we've done. And I was kind of like, okay, we did this, 2 years ago with Glenn Lewis. I want to do it with you. So now that you know the process, you tell me who you want, and we put together a team and took 7 days and just recorded. And like she did it. Like this is one of the first projects that I've heard that she's got very serious bars. She's got very serious songs. She's got house songs. Like she's got the full thing. Yeah. And nothing is contrived. Nothing is forced. It's not like, oh man, hey, we should do it's like if it's not in you, then we don't do it.
It's a truly creative piece.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about that. We're trying to get this out in June. I'm mad because she's having kind of a early listening, party that, Carvin Hagen's one of the writers, and Musina was one of the writers, and Eric Roberson was one of the writers, that they're all going. And I may just kind of chime in on the Skype chat a little bit later. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. Super.
I look forward to that. Well, thank you very much for joining us on How to Kill an Hour. I just want to say I appreciate you coming down, and you can put us on the list of places you want to stop by when you're next in the UK. Yes. You're always welcome in the studio, man.
Anytime. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for joining us. Like we always say, make sure you go to howtokillanhour.com/news and get yourself on the mailing list. I've been Marcus Bronzy.
I've been Funk Butcher.
I am DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, thank you for killing some time with us.